A little boy ran to the bikers with a blood-stained map. He said his sister was taken, and the coordinates led the club deep into cartel territory. The 7-year-old's hands shook as he unfolded the paper, brown stains marking an X in the mountains 60 miles south of the border. What those bikers found at those coordinates would start a war that changed everything. My name is Marcus Reaper Stone, and I've been president of the Desert Devils Motorcycle Club for 16 years. We're not angels. We've done our time, paid our debts, and now we run a legitimate motorcycle repair shop in Tucson while keeping the Brotherhood alive. But we still remember what it means to stand against real evil. That memory got tested the day little Miguel Hernandez stumbled into our shop. It was a Tuesday afternoon, temperature pushing 110 degrees, when the kid appeared in our doorway. He couldn't have weighed more than 50 pounds, his face streaked with dust and tears, his SpongeBob t-shirt torn at the collar. He was bleeding from a cut above his left eye, and he was clutching a folded piece of paper like his life depended on it. "Please," he gasped in Spanish-accented English. "Please, they took my sister. I have the map. I walked 6 miles. Please help me." Hammer, our sergeant-at-arms, moved first. He's 6'4", covered in tattoos from his Marine Corps days, and he looks like he could break a man in half. But he went down on one knee to talk to Miguel at eye level. "Who took your sister?" "The bad men. The ones with guns. They came to our house this morning. They shot Papa. They took Maria." Miguel's voice broke. "Mama told me to run and find help. She told me to find the men with the motorcycles, because they're the only ones brave enough to go against Los Lobos. Los Lobos, the Wolves, one of the most brutal cartel factions operating along the Arizona-Mexico border. They specialized in human trafficking, drug running, and making examples of anyone who crossed them. Local law enforcement was either bought off or too terrified to act. The DEA had been trying to infiltrate them for years with no success. "Let me see the map," I said. Miguel held it out with shaking hands. The paper was old, hand-drawn, with landmarks and distances marked in Spanish. A river, a rock formation that looked like a sleeping giant, a dirt road, and at the center, marked with a dried bloodstain and an X, coordinates that put the location deep in the Sonoran Mountains, at least 10 miles past the Mexican border. "Where did you get this?" "Papa drew it before he died. He worked for them. He drove trucks. But when they said they were going to sell Maria, he tried to stop them. They shot him. But before he drew this, he said this is where they keep the girls before they move them." Cruz, one of our senior members, pulled out his phone and entered the coordinates into a mapping app. He showed me the screen. The location was in the middle of nowhere, accessible only by one narrow mountain road, surrounded by hills perfect for lookouts. It was a fortress. "Kid," I said carefully, "this is cartel territory. We can't just ride in there. We need to call the police, the FBI." "No police." Miguel's voice cracked with desperation. "Los Lobos own the police. My cousin called police last year when they took his wife. The police told Los Lobos, 'My cousin is dead. Please.' Mama said the motorcycle men are different. She said you don't work for anyone but yourselves." I looked at Hammer, then at Cruz, then at Diesel, Jonesy, Snake, and the rest of my brothers standing in that garage. Every single one of them had the same look in their eyes. We all knew what this meant. We knew the risk. We knew we might not come back. "How old is your sister?" Hammer asked. 9, Miguel whispered. "She's 9 years old and she wants to be a teacher and she's scared of the dark, and they took her in the daylight, so she must be so scared now." That did it. Hammer stood up, his jaw set. "I'm going." "We're all going," Cruz said. I pulled out my phone and called every Desert Devil within 100 miles. Told them we had an emergency. Told them to come armed and ready. Within 2 hours, 37 bikers stood in that garage. I showed them the map. Told them about Miguel and his sister. told them this was cartel territory and we were probably riding into an ambush. Anyone who wants to walk away, no judgment. This isn't club business. This is a rescue mission that could get us all killed. Not a single man moved toward the door. Snake spoke up, his voice rough. My daughter's 12. If someone took her, I'd want someone to try. I'm in. Road captain, I said to Carlos Diablo, our best tactical rider. Plot us a route. We go in quiet. No club, colors, no visible weapons until we need them. We're ghost riders tonight. Miguel's mother, Rosa, arrived at the garage an hour later. She'd been hiding at a neighbor's house. Her husband was dead. Her daughter was gone. She should have been broken. But when she looked at us, her eyes were steel. You bring her back, she said. It wasn't a request. If you believe bikers are the good people, hit that like and subscribe button. We rode out at sunset, 37 Harleys heading south in formation. Miguel rode with me, his small arms wrapped around my waist. We'd armed him with a helmet and leather jacket that swallowed his tiny frame. Every few miles he'd tap my shoulder and point out landmarks he recognized from his father's map. The border crossing was easier than expected. We had contacts. Men who owed us favors. Men who understood that sometimes you had to look the other way when the law couldn't reach where justice needed to go. We crossed into Mexico as the last light died behind the mountains. The terrain got rough fast. The paved road gave way to dirt. The dirt road narrowed to a trail. We killed our engines 2 miles out and walked the bikes, using night vision goggles Cruz had gotten from his military days. Miguel whispered directions, his voice steady now that we were close. That's when we heard the screaming. It came from ahead, high-pitched and terrified. A girl's voice. Then another. Then more. Hammer's hand went to the weapon under his jacket. I signaled for silence. We crested a rise and saw it. A compound carved into the mountainside. 3 buildings forming a U-shape around a central courtyard. Armed guards at every corner. 2 trucks parked near the main building. And in one of the buildings, lights blazing behind barred windows. Miguel grabbed my arm, his fingernails digging in. That's where the screaming is coming from. Cruz glassed the compound with binoculars. I count 8 guards outside. No idea how many inside. The building on the left is where they're keeping people. I can see shadows moving behind the windows. What's the plan, Reaper? Hammer asked. I looked at the compound, looked at Miguel, looked at my brothers. We were mechanics and ex-cons and veterans. We weren't trained for this. We weren't equipped for this. We were going to die trying to do this. We're going to get those girls out, I said. All of them. Snake had a different idea. Reaper, look at the truck on the right. The big one. That's a transport vehicle. See the reinforced sides? They're planning to move them tonight. He was right. Men were loading supplies into the trucks. This wasn't a permanent holding location. This was a staging area. If we waited, if we called for help, those girls would be gone by morning, scattered across Mexico, lost forever. That's when the situation got worse. A black SUV pulled into the compound. 4 men got out, and even from 200 yards away, I recognized the way they moved. Military, trained, professional, not local muscle. These were the real operators. The leader was a man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit despite the desert heat. He walked into the main building like he owned it. 5 minutes later, he came back out dragging a crying girl by her arm. She couldn't have been more than 10. Miguel made a sound like a wounded animal. That's Maria. That's my sister. The man in the suit threw Maria toward the trucks. She fell hard. One of the guards laughed. Another grabbed her and pushed her toward the transport vehicle. She was fighting, screaming in Spanish, calling for her mother. They're loading her now, Hammer said, his voice tight with fury. We move now or we lose her. I looked at my brothers, saw the same rage reflected in every face. We'd come this far. We weren't turning back. Diesel, Jonesy, you two circle around to the west side. Take out the guards near the generator. When the power goes, that's our signal. Hammer, you and 6 others hit the main gate. Cruz, you take 4 and secure the transport vehicles. The rest of you with me. We get those girls out of that building and we run. What about the men in suits? Snake asked. Save them for last, I said. The girls are priority 1. We split up, moving through the darkness like shadows. Diesel and Jonesy reached the generator in 4 minutes. The explosion was small but effective. The compound plunged into darkness. Shouts erupted. Guards ran toward the generator. That's when we hit them. Hammer and his team came through the front gate on foot, weapons raised. The first guard went down without a sound. The second raised his rifle, but Cruz shot it out of his hands from 50 yards. The professional soldiers from the SUV reacted fast, taking cover and returning fire. Bullets sparked off rocks around us. I reached the building where the girls were held. The door was locked. Heavy steel. I shot the lock 3 times before it gave way. Inside, the smell hit me first. Sweat and fear and unwashed bodies. 23 girls. Ages ranging from maybe 7 to 16. Huddled together in 2 rooms. Terrified. Some crying. Some too traumatized to make sound. English? Espanol? I shouted. We're here to help. We're getting you out. A teenage girl stood up, her eyes hard despite her fear. Who are you? Friends of Miguel Hernandez. His sister Maria is here. We're taking all of you home. You're American bikers. You're going to get us killed. Maybe, I said. But you're definitely going to die if you stay here. So let's move. Outside, the firefight had intensified. I heard Hammer shouting orders, heard the distinctive crack of Cruz's rifle, heard an explosion from the direction of the transport trucks. Good. They couldn't take the girls anywhere now. But then, I heard something that made my blood freeze. Helicopter rotors, distant but getting closer. They called for backup, Snake shouted from the doorway. We got maybe 5 minutes before this place is swarming with reinforcements. I got the girls moving, herding them out of the building toward where we'd left the bikes. Miguel appeared out of nowhere, running past me into the building. He came back seconds later with Maria in his arms. She was sobbing, clutching her little brother like he was the only real thing in the world. I told you I'd find help, Miguel said to her in Spanish. I told you the motorcycle men would come. The helicopter appeared over the ridge, searchlights sweeping the compound. We were exposed, trapped. The professional soldiers had regrouped and were advancing on our position. We had 23 terrified girls, no vehicles, and maybe 90 seconds before that chopper cut us to pieces. That's when the twist hit us. The helicopter didn't fire. Instead, it landed in the courtyard. Men piled out. But they weren't cartel. They were wearing tactical gear with DEA in yellow letters. The DEA had been watching this compound for 6 weeks. They had a team positioned on the next ridge over. They'd watched us ride in, watched us assault a cartel stronghold, and they'd decided to use our attack as cover to finally move in themselves. Agent Sarah Morrison, the team leader, found me kneeling behind a wall with Miguel and Maria. You're either the stupidest or bravest sons of bitches I've ever seen, she said. 37 bikers with hunting rifles just declared war on Los Lobos to save one little girl. 23 girls, I corrected. There are 23 in that building. Her expression changed. Our intel said this was a staging area for drug shipments. We didn't know about the trafficking. Now you do. The DEA agents secured the compound. They arrested 18 cartel members, including the man in the expensive suit who turned out to be Javier Ruiz, the number 3 man in Los Lobos. They seized documents, computers, phones, evidence that would lead to 47 more arrests over the next 3 months. But the best moment came when they searched the main building. Behind a false wall, they found another room. 12 more girls, younger than the others. Some who'd been missing for over a year. Some who'd been given up for dead by their families. Agent Morrison stood in that room, tears running down her face, and said, "We've been hunting this trafficking ring for 3 years. We didn't know where they kept the girls. We couldn't find the staging areas. And you idiots just walked right in and blew it wide open." "We're not idiots," Hammer said. "We're bikers. There's a difference." The ride home took 2 days. The DEA transported the girls in vehicles with medical personnel. We rode escort, 37 Harleys surrounding those vans like a protective wall. Every time we stopped for gas or food, the girls would wave at us from the windows. Maria and Miguel rode with Agent Morrison, but Miguel asked to stop at our first rest break, just to thank us. "You saved my sister," he said, hugging me tight. "You saved all the sisters." The media went crazy with the story. Outlaw bikers rescue trafficking victims. Motorcycle club takes on cartel. Desert devils become heroes. The attention made us uncomfortable. We weren't heroes. We were just men who'd seen a kid asking for help and couldn't say no. Los Lobos didn't see it that way. 2 weeks after the rescue, they sent a message. 3 of their sicarios rolled up to our garage at midnight. They didn't come to fight. They came to deliver a warning from their bosses. "You made us look weak," the leader said. "You embarrassed us. There will be consequences." Hammer stepped forward. "Tell your bosses this. We didn't go after you. We went after the girls. But if you want to make this about us versus you, then let's be clear. You touch anyone in this club, anyone in their families, anyone in this town, and we won't call the DEA next time. We'll handle it ourselves. And we know where your bosses sleep." The sicarios left. Los Lobos never retaliated. Word on the street was that their leadership decided the Desert Devils weren't worth the attention. That a war with a motorcycle club would bring too much heat from law enforcement. That letting it go was the smart play. But the real reason, according to Agent Morrison, who told me this over beers 6 months later, was that the cartel's mid-level guys were terrified. We'd walked into their fortress, rescued 35 trafficking victims, and walked out alive. We'd done what DEA agents with training and equipment had failed to do. We'd become legends, scary legends, the kind you don't mess with. 5 years later, I stood in Miguel's living room watching him blow out 14 candles on his birthday cake. Maria, now 14, was helping their mother in the kitchen. Their father's death still hurt, but they were alive. They were safe. They were home. Miguel had kept in touch with all of us. He visited the garage every Saturday to help out, sweeping floors and learning about engines. He wore a Desert Devils t-shirt we'd given him and told anyone who'd listen about the night bikers saved his sister. 27 of the 35 girls we rescued that night had been reunited with their families. The others, who had no families to return to, had been placed in protective foster care. 3 had already testified against Los Lobos members, their testimonies leading to multiple life sentences. The trafficking ring had been dismantled. The compound in the mountains was now an empty ruin, burned to the ground by Mexican authorities. Maria pulled me aside at the birthday party. She was taller now, confident in a way that broken children sometimes become when they survive their nightmare. "I'm going to be a social worker," she told me. "I'm going to help other kids who've been trafficked. And I'm going to tell them that help can come from anywhere, even from scary-looking bikers with tattoos." "We're not that scary," I said. She smiled. "Yes, you are. That's what makes you perfect. The bad guys never expect the scary-looking good guys." Agent Morrison had stayed in touch too. She'd left the DEA and now ran a non-profit that rescued trafficking victims and reunited them with families. She'd hired 3 of our club members as security consultants. Said she wanted people who weren't afraid to go into hard places to get innocent people out. The Desert Devils Motorcycle Club changed after that night. We'd always been brothers, but now we had a purpose, beyond riding and working on engines. We became the people families called when law enforcement couldn't or wouldn't help. When a kid went missing near the border, we got a call. When someone suspected trafficking, we investigated. We worked with Morrison's nonprofit. We fed intelligence to the DEA. We became something we'd never planned to be, a bridge between the outlaw world and the law. The irony wasn't lost on us. We'd all done time. We'd all broken laws. We'd all been called criminals by society. But when a 7-year-old boy walked into our garage with a blood-stained map and asked for help, we didn't hesitate. We didn't worry about jurisdiction or protocol or consequences. We just went. Because that's what you do when children are in danger. That's what brotherhood means. Not the patches or the bikes or the leather. It means standing up when everyone else sits down. It means riding into hell when someone needs rescuing. It means being the scary-looking good guys in a world that's learned not to trust anyone. Miguel's map sits framed on the wall of our clubhouse now. The bloodstains have faded, but you can still see the X marking the spot where 35 girls were supposed to disappear forever. Next to it is a photo from the rescue. 37 bikers, 35 girls, and Agent Morrison, all standing in front of our bikes at sunrise after we'd crossed back into Arizona. Maria wrote something on that photo years later, when she came to visit on her 18th birthday. Not all heroes wear badges. Some wear leather and ride motorcycles and answer prayers that no one else will hear. Los Lobos cartel still operates along the border, but they don't traffic children through that region anymore. They learned that lesson the hard way. They learned that somewhere in Tucson, there's a motorcycle club that will ride 60 miles into cartel territory on the word of a 7-year-old with a hand-drawn map. They learned that bikers keep their promises, especially promises made to children. The Desert Devils MC isn't famous. We don't want to be. We still run our garage. We still ride our bikes. We still look like the kind of men nervous mothers pull their children away from. But we know the truth. So do 35 women who were once terrified girls in a mountain compound. So does Miguel, who walks a little taller because 37 strangers cared enough to believe his sister was worth saving. And so does every trafficker, every predator, every cartel sicario who heard the story and knows that sometimes justice doesn't come in a squad car. Sometimes it comes on 2 wheels, wearing leather, carrying the kind of righteous fury that makes evil men afraid. Because that's what the Desert Devils are now. We're the answer to prayers that law enforcement can't reach. We're the scary-looking men who children run toward instead of away from when monsters come calling. We're the ones who ride into hell with a blood-stained map and bring the angels home. Like and subscribe for more stories.